We're wearing hats. We're trying to break the world record for most number of people on a podcast wearing hats.
It's a hat trick.
Where's Norris McWhirter when you need him?
Is he wearing a hat?
I don't think he's dead. But,
oh, right.
Bring back Brown Bread. Oh, Rob keeps falling off. Sorry, Rob. We'll put his book back up. 2 weeks at the top of the book charts.
He's
smashed
smashed the record for sales for a book involving Rugby League, which is fantastic.
Obviously, buying singles is not what it was. So people will say, "Oh, you have to sell about 3 songs to get to number 1 or whatever." But
not far off 20,000 sales, which is
a lot of books.
Double the amount of books any other Rugby League book has sold.
It's about the amount of people who go to Headingley
to watch boxing.
And just like the last one, it wasn't Josh Warrington's year. I tweeted that and I didn't get as much traction as I thought it would do because I thought it was quite funny, but never mind. Welcome to the programme. Last week we had, how many people in the studio?
5. We couldn't move for people in the studio.
This week. I forgot to book some guests. But we'll sort it out in the future. Welcome to 4020 Live on YouTube, not on Facebook anymore because it's too much hassle. It never works and, try again. Nah, just give up. That's our mantra. Phil was at the Magic Weekend. I was not. I did social media for the Wakefield Trinity Ladies game yesterday. And what I found out was, A, if you're the sole person there doing something, pay attention because you'll get the score wrong. B, I can't tell the 5 and the 6 apart on a Huddersfield Giants women's shirt. So apologies to Amelia Brown who scored 5 tries and I gave it to her teammate, who was it? I said she did score. Sade Rihara, so apologies to Amelia Brown. You scored 5 tries, but I only gave you 1, I think, in the end. But it's actually quite easy to do social media for a team and not be biased against the referee.
Really? Even if they're losing heavily?
I know, and I wasn't even being paid. It was like a volunteer.
It's like those great scorers at cricket.
And somewhere there will be a cricket scorebook in which I am in it, but as another, because... have I told this story before? I don't know. Nigel Bell, venerable Wakefield player, played I think every position at Wakefield pretty much. Still goes to the games, still in there. Eastmore legend, much like Brian McDermott, but actually playing for the club. It was his benefit year, or testimonial, whatever you call it. It was testimonial, that's what it's benefit in cricket. And they played a cricket match at my local cricket ground, and they were a player short. And because I'd turned up in the full Yorkshire Sunday League kit like a moron, this is mid-90s, not last week.
Not a full kit.
Yeah, exactly. Because it must have been a week before they were selling off the trousers. They must have had a load of trousers spare, so I bought a pair for a £5. I think just pyjamas, really. And because I'd turned up at the ground in all this stuff and they were play short, they said, "Do you want a fancy game?" So, yeah, obviously. Despite the fact I've got no cricket ability whatsoever. So I am in the scorebook somewhere as another, and I scored a total of 0.
Bit like the England cricket team.
Which
is not here what we're...
And a bit like Wakefield Trinity Ladies, sadly. But we'll talk about Women's Super League later, because it's Magic Weekend. It was Magic Weekend. It was magic. C'est magique. Congratulations, Catalan Dragons. I don't know what that is. I should have looked for that in French or Catalan.
Felicitations.
Something like that. Feliz Navidad, say the Catalan Dragons. Well done. They're the League Leaders Shield winners. We'll talk about that in a minute. What was Magic Weekend like? Because obviously I wasn't there this year. I've been at Newcastle in the past. It's a great venue. Obviously, that was in the before times. Now we're in the...
That was the chicken cottage times.
In the glory days. Now we're in the kind of... Not after times, but, What was it like?
Invigorating. Good. And it was a really good crowd. I think 60,000 is at the top end of expectation. The atmosphere was great because... after that festival feel that the fans get when they all mix and haven't seen each other for a long time, it sounded more than that. It was pretty vibrant in the stadium and in the city. I think we got 2 games that were absolutely outstanding. That the reaction of everybody you spoke to afterwards, probably apart from Ken Davey, was if you can't sell that, you can't sell anything. There was a game on the Sunday that was playoff intensity. It didn't quite have that excitement. And I think bookies are now taking bets on the Hull Wigan game this weekend that it could well finish 0-0. But it was great. I think we've talked a lot about it. events, haven't we?
Yes,
and it felt
events,
like an event. And what made it slightly different this year, and again, I think there was general agreement that because it had been delayed so often, the good thing that had come out of it was that we're now playing it when the games actually had more meaning. So it's almost as if, in terms of the playoffs, they started to 3 weeks early this weekend.
Yeah.
So Hull Leeds felt like an elimination game. This Saturday, Hull KR Cass could well feel like an elimination game. And depending on how the results go, Leeds Hull KR in the final week could possibly be an elimination game. So there was more riding on the matches than there has been in the past. A really good vibe around the place, and a couple of games that will live long in the memory. One in particular, which was arguably will go up there when Sky roll out there for the 54th time. Gold.
Magic gold.
Magic gold. That last 5 minutes of the St Helens Catalan game will always be referred to. It was amazing. How it didn't get you jumping up and down or off your seat, I have no idea unless you can, Dave.
I mean, I had a good enough reason not to go was that I was working, and no one wanted me to go work at match weekend, so I didn't go. But beforehand I was like, c'est la vie.
It's a real
to continue
commitment.
This French thing.
It is a commitment, because even the most passionate of us, to watch 3 games one after the other is a big ask.
And I've been at every summer bash, so I'm glowing for punishment. And before I was thinking, I was on the mindset of, it's just another round of Super League, and this year's been whatever it's been. There's been some good games. I'm not saying everything's been rubbish this year, but we're all in a malaise. But afterwards, I was like, we should have been there to see that. And that's what we need, is the fear of missing out, as the kids call it. And I missed out on 2 Golden Point extravaganzas. I missed Wakefield winning, which is always good.
Give it to Willie.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that in a bit, because we've got a theory on that. Because I have to be obtuse, don't I? But it was, from a viewing perspective, having seen a bit of the games on both days, because I was working and I was out at the Wakefield women's game on Sunday lunchtime. What great scheduling to have Wakefield and play Huddersfield at the same time as the women were, and Wigan's women playing at the same time as Wigan's men, and York indeed. They played Friday.
And Josh Warrington playing at the same at Headingley playing at the same time as Leeds will play.
C'est la vie. But afterwards, I think, I feel like I have missed something, which is good. So I think it's different from the perspective of, because I've not been a quote unquote regular supporter for a while. Going to games when you're not being paid to is a different experience. But I did feel like I missed out on something this weekend, which is a good feeling, and that's something we can. I'm sure I won't be the only person who would have been sat watching it on telly thinking, "And we should have been there."
Really good.
Exactly. So hopefully next year, and hopefully it's back at Newcastle, because I think everyone likes Newcastle.
Venue. Yeah, I mean, the city is perfect, and even walking around, bumping into people having a cup of coffee or going for a hungover breakfast. There is a rugby league feel about the place when Magic Weekend is on, and the other thing that worked really well was clearly it was an international weekend in the football.
Perfect.
I don't know whether that was by design with Sky, because I think clearly they would have wanted a lot of live sport. That
usually if it's international, there's usually some darts on. They didn't have darts on for a change.
So that again, I don't know how many of the 60,000 that were there were northeasterners, but I suspect they got a big TV audience, and as word started to spread that something special was happening, more and more people got involved. A certain national radio broadcaster, who we know quite well, covered all 6 games.
Which is brilliant.
And they did it because they felt it was an event. So all the preview stuff they did was, tell me about Magic Weekend, why is it so important, and why can no other sport really do this? And I think we got back to the whole idea of that there's an issue around, should it be part of the regular season rather than add-on, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But for those 2 days, we look good.
We thought 9s again, aren't we? But it's... I know people have been critical of the amount of marketing, and this goes same for the Challenge Cup final in an extent to a point. But I almost think this year the point is valid, but it was also complete and utter. You could spend money and then it gets cancelled. We didn't know what was going to happen. So it's a shame that more people weren't there, but with the situation, 60,000 over 2 days, it's about where it was, wasn't it, I think? So, and no one went to Anfield because no one liked Anfield. So, everyone likes Newcastle.
The other thing that really worked was because something special evolved that you weren't expecting in the Saints Catalan game. The neutrals really got behind the Dragons. So the Saints fans were loud and there were lots of them there and they were great and they were cruising to a win and clearly they were dominating the sound in the stadium. And then you got this impression that, something might be happening. Oh, right, well, we'll shout for the underdog. And then the underdog becomes the overdog. And even at Wembley, there weren't thousands of people. There was a curiosity about Catalan being there. There wasn't a fervent support base for them. But all of the neutrals in the ground, predominantly Leeds and Hull fans, because they were getting ready for their game afterwards, they all got behind the Dragons. And it was great, and I don't know what they felt about it, but it must have been like playing at the Stade Gilbert Brutus for a while. So that was fantastic, and that augurs well for the grand final, because if they do get there, you've got something to hang ticket sales on. So if it was me now and I was that Super League saying, oh, Ken's told us I'm upset Catalan might be getting to the final.
Ken. Happy Ken.
Everyone's second favourite team is the tagline now.
I'm still a bit over the Falau thing, but apart from that,
they were. I mean, I think when you're caught up in something as it's happening, you don't really fully appreciate what's happened until you sit down and go, "What just happened?" But I'll tell you what impressed me the most about that Dragons revival, Artur Morg, because his break, which showed no fear, and his brilliant pass off the ground one-handedly when he'd beaten 3 Saints players to put Dudson in. On that moment, the realisation that something could be happening turned. So, Dean Farre goes and everyone goes, very nice, lovely, well-constructed try, a bit of a consolation, probably a more fair reflection of the way the game's gone. Well done, Catalan. And then Morg goes, all right, I'm not frightened by this situation. I know we're playing the best defence in the league. I'm going to take them on. And that was brilliant. And suddenly he scores. And then you go, right, well, now it's only 1 score. So it's Hail Mary time. And anything can happen from a Hail Mary. And, of course, what happened? It's like the hat-trick in cricket.
Yeah.
But that Morg break and youngsters this weekend who've all made a contribution across a range of teams was absolutely fantastic.
The Welsh Rugby League Twitter must have been asleep to not tag us in the Twitter about Gil Dudson. But,
the 54th man to score a try on a Saturday.
From Wales at the Magic Weekend.
With the ball set up one-handedly by a half-back.
It being at Newcastle, let me compare Steve McNamara, super coach that he is, to Sir Bobby Robson, who of course coached at a club level.
Statue adorns the outside.
A bit more success at Ipswich than Steve McNamara had at Bradford, but I think we can accept that. Went to the international job, got close, not quite close enough, left, and now has made his name abroad. Who will be the Jose Mourinho of this? We don't know. Some random French kid's going to be a super coach in the future, but Steve McNamara, whose reputation wasn't great when he had the England job, even though he did a good job.
Well, even at the start of his Catalan tenure.
And now he's won 2 of 3.
I think the patience that they've shown with him has been rewarded. The fact that there are now significant French players coming through, and clearly he has established a template that was a bit more formulaic in the early years to lay that platform. The fact that they've come over here so often during COVID and at their expense, it almost feels right that not only should they get the League Leaders Shield as a reward, and I hope they get 9, 10, 11,000 at the Brutus on Saturday evening to just see it presented, because when you think that they won the Challenge Cup, what happened on the back of that? They went and played in Barcelona in front of the highest Super League crowd we've had for a domestic game. They've won the League Leaders' Shield. They keep reporting it. You know, it's almost as if Toulouse, who won their League Leaders' Shield as well, perhaps do get promoted, we can talk about a changing of the guard a little bit. But yeah, was it the 7th different League Leaders' Shield in 9 years? And we don't make enough of it, and we should.
Now they've got to make it to Old Trafford and win, because too many of those have not gone on and done that. I saw some people saying that their victory's tainted in so much as that COVID and stuff, but they've played 21 games this season.
Yeah,
which is
more
only
than the two teams that are likely to be chasing them for the grand final.
Yeah, only Wigan, Leeds, Wakefield and Huddersfield have played more. So I don't really understand that.
And they're the team that, again, on at least one of those occasions, a side couldn't come to them. So I think they've been exemplary this year in the way they've gone about it.
And I don't think we can say the same for Toulouse. I know people are going to say, well, they've only played 13 compared to... Well, that's the inequality of their league.
Mm. That's because it's part-time.
Gallic shrug of shoulders.
And part-time teams were told they couldn't and shouldn't travel.
Is there any export duty on League Leaders' Shields? Are they precious metal? Do we know what they're made of?
And both teams will have home semi-finals, which again you would hope, with the World Cup destined to go there in 2025, with the likelihood that England are going to be sending men's, women's and wheelchair teams to France this autumn to play some games, that you can build on it.
The rebirth of French Rugby League.
But what a dramatic last 4 minutes. There can't be many games where you've got 3 tries scored in 4 minutes against the best defence in the league. And anybody can say, oh, St Helens just clocked off. They could have clocked off and still won that game 30-24. What the Dragons did was exceptional. And then Maloney's drop goal from 40 metres out, quite magnificent.
Wolf out, though. Wolf out.
Those sort of games you could watch all day, every day.
You know what was disappointing was, because I was working, I couldn't see it live. I had to wait till midnight to see the highlights on Sky, because they weren't on the Super League YouTube channel. I know that's nitpicking because everyone was there, and I know they was working, I know they're busy and everything, but I want to see it. I want to see it. And maybe I could have gone on Twitter to find it. I don't know. But yeah, I want to see it.
Should have been bombarded everywhere, because it was something pretty special.
It was. Catalans, congratulations, they are the champions. Few messages. John has tweeted us. He's going to listen to us tomorrow in the sun. Hello, John. Tomorrow in the sun. Kirsty says evening. Evening, Kirsty. CG. Decent entertainment, but start lack of quality over the weekend. Was it rubbish?
No,
you saw more than I did.
I enjoyed it. I think we've got the emergence of some young talent coming through at a number of clubs, and that's exciting.
So we should have to everyone moaned about academies.
I get that, you know, there wasn't some intensity around a couple of the games, but even Wigan Warrington, which was again one of those absorbing rugby league matches where, because it's close, you can't take your eyes off it. It felt like a playoff. You know, that's what happens in play. Teams don't take risk or chance, and it was very defence dominated. So yeah, you can say, oh, well, we need to see more flair, but actually you do. But come the autumn nights coming in, you tend to see less. I thought overall it was really good. I mean, Lee did what Lee have done all year. Were credible in the first half and fell away in the second. But Hull Chaos scored some nice tries. Always good to see a German score. Good old Jimmy.
Super League ready, were Lee? They said at the end of last year, but actually it was Manchester United women who were Super League ready, and not themselves. Do they still do the Albert Goldthorpe thing? I can't find the point. Because I'm only asking because I'm assuming have we gone dark yet on the Man of Steel thing? I've no idea.
I've not seen anything.
Because we used to get a weekly email, didn't we? But I don't know if Super League have deleted me from their email thing. I don't get anything. Because if Sam Tompkins doesn't win it this year, then everyone's going to say, what the hell's gone on?
Yeah.
It's not like last year where everyone moaned about Paul McShane winning it and Castleford this and that and the other. There wasn't an outstanding player in Super League last year, was there?
He seems to.
But this year,
he seems to be. Everyone is agreed,
everyone
and it's to Sam's credit because he is an ultra competitive guy who has been known in the past to wind the opposition on. Everybody is saying he's been outstanding this year. England captain as well.
All these people being positive about Sam Tompkins. It's very.
He's been very important to what the Dragons have done this year. Set a great lead.
Joshua, I think, agrees with what you were saying earlier about moving Magic to this time of year in terms of the intensity of the games with the what was on the line. I guess the problem is availability of football stadium, which is...
But we've moved Magic, it's been the start of the season to kick it off, it's been the middle of the season, it's now towards the end of the regular season. It had something a little bit more meaningful this time. So yeah, I'd be sort of tempted if the Challenge Cup is moving earlier in the schedule, move Magic a bit later.
Keith was freezing on Saturday.
Was he?
Yeah.
What was he wearing?
Bloody freezing he was. Which he was the same as Sunday. I think it was warm at Bellevue. I couldn't believe it because, I mean, in the middle of summer it's been freezing there this year, but it was quite nice there.
It was wet and a bit miserable on Saturday, but the rugby transcended that.
Warmed your hearts.
Warmed the cockles.
The great thing about St James's Park is there's that little bit of space outside for a fan zone. I don't know what it was like this year because obviously I wasn't there, but I'm sure people can have your photo taken with the World Cup. What more do you want in life? It's better than the Four Nations trophy.
The people of the city genuinely seem to be intrigued by what's happening and take an interest in it, and there are sufficient places that you can stay in or around the city that make it a great weekend. And on the way up at Durham Services, I even shared a portion of the gents with Chris Chester.
Chris Chester, what's he doing there?
He was doing the same as everyone else. He was going out with his family and having a weekend, enjoying the rugby.
I don't want to talk about Wakefield yet because it'll sound like I'm just putting Wakefield in there before everything else. I do enjoy the letter in the League Express this week. They seem to have got lesser right wing recently. I don't know what's going on. About the biggest problem for Rugby League, says Graham of Castleford, is Sky Sports. I'd say that's probably one of our biggest positives.
Yeah.
Without them,
no Super League.
And he talks about choosing when they pick and choose when we play bloody games. I mean, it's disgraceful. They pay all that money and then they choose when to play. What I don't understand is,
hasn't that always happened since the advent of terrestrial television?
What I don't understand is we have a culture.
Satellite, not terrestrial.
Satellite, the good old BSB. Get your square reels out, lads. In football, no one seems to. Well, they moan, but they just seem to. All right, we're playing Carlisle on Wednesday night. We're off. Whereas we moan about going to 2 stops down the 62. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know. If you can't go to a game, you can't go to a game. I couldn't go to the games this week and I was working.
Well, as we were saying, in the days before floodlights, evening matches kicked off at sort of 6 o'clock, and there would have been various people working various shifts that couldn't have gone then. It's always not just Sky.
And the greatest thing about floodlights, of course, is that Bramley won the Floodlit Trophy when all the games were played during the day because of the 3-day week and all that.
So they did, and you weren't even born.
No, well done, Bramley.
I was.
On that one.
Beat Widnes in the final.
I put out my old programmes today was Liverpool City, who were they, versus Huddersfield, when Huddersfield were playing in the Lancashire League for a season.
Leeds didn't.
So, madness. Let's not talk about the Giants. Let's talk about Hull and Leeds, because Leeds won. Cruz Leeming, I can't say that I saw lots of him play for the Giants, but he seems to be, as he's getting older, which would attend to these things, getting better and better as a player. He's been one of the standouts for Leeds this season.
I think he'll be the Leeds Player of the Year, because we're getting to that part of the season where clubs will be having either real or virtual award ceremonies. I think he has been Leeds' best in 2 positions. The most impressive 2 things about that game from again seeing it unfold was that the 2 most impressive players for Leeds were Harry Newman and Jack Broadbent. We're in a week where they've announced that Conrad Hurrell isn't staying. Don't think it's uncommon knowledge that he's moving further down the M62. But how do you keep kids like that out if they deserve their place? So that was encouraging. The other thing was the 8 minutes of golden point extra time. Because Leeds' defence in that period was absolutely outstanding to ensure that Hull didn't get near enough for Mark Sneyd to inevitably win the game. Everybody was saying when he went to golden point, it's a great game, 2 evenly matched teams, but now Mark Sneyd will win it for Hull. And it was Leeds, and you would have got, clearly, that would have been the favourites' choice. But Leeds' defence was so good at not only keeping them in their own territory, which led to the error that meant that Leeds eventually won the game, but also they never gave Sneyd a clear kicking chance. He either wasn't close enough or he was shut down, which again Newman charging down one of his long range efforts was symptomatic of that. But no, again, a great game. Hull, Chris Satay over 200 metres again in a game is astonishing.
Oh, we've got those stats now. We've got metres per second, which I wrote about before.
Yeah, Newman was the fastest man at Newcastle. Got up to, was it 22 miles an hour?
I mean, it's good to see a Newman on Sky Net advertising erectile dysfunction tablets during the halftime adverts. But maybe we should put that in the column, actually. That's a good one.
Remember that.
Write that down for later. So Leeds are good again now, obviously, well, having lost to Wakefield the other week.
I think
we didn't get to talk about last week.
The other thing about Leeds was they lost, their sole real halfback after 15 minutes, and again still found a way to win, which is great. Hull's issue is, we were told that Jake Connor's position this year is full-back. He was given a number 1 shirt. He was going to cause real damage by being that X factor and ranging in when he wanted to. And although he did some really good things, when they needed someone in that last sort of 5 minutes in golden point extra time, they don't get enough out of him when he's playing at standoff. And Jamie Shaw, again, great to see him back. He pulled off a fantastic tackle on Ash Handley. Did a lot of work out of dummy half when the ball was in their own half, trying to clear the lines. But you got the impression that the balance again was sort of wrong, and that plan B is plan A, and it's just keep going up the middle. And as Brett Hodgson said, they tried to hold on to a lead rather than playing a rugby when they'd got a lead, and that ultimately came back to bite them on the bottom. I still think there is a case for saying that maybe Shaw is a backup hooker, so that you can accommodate Connor at full back. But unfortunately, it seems as though they're not going to make the playoffs. Mathematically, I think they could if they win their 2 games and other things fall their way. Although with so many teams playing each other, the likelihood is that somebody's going to pick up percentage points somewhere along the line that will scupper Hull from getting there. And if you look at the 2 teams that have probably disappointed the most this year in what they spent and what initial promise there was at the start of the season, it would have to be Huddersfield and Hull if they don't make the playoffs.
What, 2-3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday afternoon? I mean, I don't pay any attention to anything that's going on, do I? So this is a thing. Something I was going to say last week and we didn't get a chance because we were talking about other things, which was more important. You've seen that I've not got a shirt on this week because I'm not doing a draw or anything this week. It's just making a normal rugby league nonsense. I wonder sometimes if they put far too much emphasis on the Hull derby and how important it is, because it's all right beating Hull KR and you get the Clive Sullivan Trophy or whatever. They're below Hull KR now in the table, who, at the start of the season would have expected that not to be the case. It wasn't Lee Radford, and if it's not Brett Hodgson, and if it wasn't Richard Agar or whoever else has been in that hot seat over the past 10, 15 years, what's the problem with Hull FC? Because they should be, for the big club that they are, they've been to 1 grand final. Cass have been to 1 grand final. And the Hull were awful in that grand final.
I think it is finding that balance between patience of bringing through youth and not trying to chase success and overpaying for some overseas players. And thinking that just because they're overseas players, there's a fix. I think Carlos Tuamavave is their best player at the moment. I think every time he gets the ball with the footwork that he's got, he's causing defence real trouble. But it seems to be that most of the time he gets the ball, again, he's being asked to run it out of defence in the middle of the field. Almost as if, you're quick, you've got good feet, go to dummy half, take some pressure off the forwards. And it's all down that middle channel. There's no getting the ball out wide. I mean, Ben McNamara, we have a game that goes to 88 minutes. It's pretty intense and ferocious. Hull are getting clawed back and they seem to be running out of ideas on attack. They've got a young 19-year-old on the bench. They don't play. It's
a strange one because obviously they do spend a lot of money compared to some of the teams
And that money has to justify itself, because if you're not going to pay big money and then stick it on the bench or not select it. But I think in some respects Warrington have been through that phase. Hull are going through it. It's like, we'll accumulate players, but we won't spend time developing enough players, and you're always then changing your team. You never get a philosophy or a style about what you stand for and how you play, and you might have a good season. You might pick up a Challenge Cup, or you might finish in the playoffs, or you might be one game away from Old Trafford. But it's every year or every couple of years, you always seem to be starting again. I think that has to be an issue at Hull and Warrington.
You remember in the olden days when you used to see Peter Stringfellow in the newspapers, and he'd always be pictured with a certain type of female companion. Hull have got a type, haven't they? And it's big South Sea Island forwarders. Maybe they need to find a different
And to be
type.
fair, the rules changed after they'd done their recruitment.
Yeah.
But again, I thought a couple of the guys who played really well, Jordan Johnson and Brad Fash, but I didn't. It's not up to me to say, but I didn't think they were given enough game time. It to influence the outcome. But people who watch Hull on a regular basis will be able to tell us if we're talking even more nonsense than normal.
Teddy says there's too many wrong uns at Hull FC, but I don't know. He might be a Hull KR fan. He might be trying to infiltrators. Keith's asked us about Cass. So let's talk about Cass, because and Kirsty's asked us about Greg Minikin. We'll come to that in a minute. Keith's asked us about Castleford's halfbacks. Is everyone injured? Couldn't understand Powell putting Turner in Richardson's place instead of giving youngsters a chance, but happy with the win. 29-18 for the Tigers. Lots of people unhappy that Turner put over a drop goal to ruin the spread there on the results. But
I think the important thing about Cass was showing something after that really disappointing Monday nilling by Wigan. And they did. So they've been on a bit of a roller coaster. Brilliant to get to the Challenge Cup final. Came out of that battered, bruised, and obviously feeling understandably a little bit sorry for themselves, which was reflected in the results. COVID issues, lots of injuries in key positions, but managed to turn that round and win 4 on the spin, which is highly commendable. Then have a what seemed at the time, because they were fighting with Wigan for a top 6 spot, as a significant loss in the manner of that defeat. And irrespective of who they were playing at Magic, to turn that around, highly commendable. If Cass make the playoffs this year and have reached the Challenge Cup final, then I reckon Darryl will leave a contented man.
And whatever happens, it's going to be a fascinating 2022 at Cass, because it's going to be a completely new era. New coach, new assistant,
different way of playing. I'm not sure. I think Lee Radford will try and go for more of a
forward-based game.
Well, possibly a more predictable style, as opposed to Darryl's
off the cuff.
Encouragement of the unpredictable, because he'll have different players. Because those are the sort of players that he gets on with. He wants to coach. That Barreto Faraimo, for example, from who we've seen at Holland, will be moving to Cass. He is another forward playing on the wing. He is not a Greg Eden. His raw pace is not going to score him tries. So they'll have to play a different way to suit the players that they've recruited. It will be interesting.
Stick 13 forwards across the pitch, it's tight.
But it'd be different. And he'll have it again. Will Zach Hardacre end up back at Castleford? And if he does, where will he play? Because I'd have to say again, if you were drawing up your men of steel, for Niall Evalds is along with Sam Tompkins the 2 best fullbacks in the competition.
I'm fully convinced, because I alluded to it, so I may as well say it, that was just put a story in the paper to get a better deal at the club he's at. Would the Cass fans welcome him back? If I was a Cass fan, I would not welcome him back.
How would they afford it?
Well, there's that as well. I would not want a player who, great that he is at fault for my team losing the grand final. It's as simple as that. We don't know what would have happened. Danny Maguire may still have had his greatest ever game or whatever on that night. We do not know. But what I do know is,
it was raining.
But it was raining, and we know the Rhinos love the rain. But what I do know is they would have had a better chance with Zach Hardacre in that team and none of the disruption. And as I said at the time, that may have been their early chance. So I would want him back if I was a Cas fan. I'm not a Cas fan, so it doesn't matter. Cas fans, do you want him back?
But where would you play him? And I think that's the issue at Wigan, that again, Hardacre is wasted if he's at any other position than fullback.
Well, maybe their new coach will play him at fullback. Who might be Sean Wayne, apparently.
Their new coach, the same as the old coach.
Then again, I wish.
I think they're looking. We don't know. I mean, there was a long statement from Messrs. Lenigan and Radlinski given to a fans forum that Wigan then released to the general public, which probably could have done with some editing, because if you just
you know these club owners and chairmen,
but if you just transcribe what
websites.
people say, it doesn't read great, because we don't talk in the way that we read and vice versa. But you got the gist of what they were talking about. And again, you know, it's almost as if they were saying Hardacre's time might be coming to an end. So whether it would be expedient for them for him to leave, I don't know. But Radlinski also said they invested a hell of a lot in him. And
yeah, even before he started playing the game. Keith says, never forgive him, don't want him. There you go, he's on my wavelength.
But I just think you've got to decide if you've gone out and signed players to play in a specific role, and you don't play them in that role, then
if you don't need him, why would you sign him?
Yeah.
I do like the. I mean, it's been a good couple of months for people who have Rugby League websites and stuff, because you can just rehash the same. Here are the 6 people who are going to get the Wakefield job, and just cross out Wakefield and put Wigan in, because it's all the same people. Because there aren't that many people.
I think there is a history, and it was mentioned by Ian Lenigan in that long piece, that they tend to promote assistants and even go to Australia and look for the assistant that is going to blossom.
I thought you were going to say Sean O'Loughlin then.
No, so I think there's a lot.
We don't want the Kieran Cunningham.
Well, there's a lot of people saying that Matty Pete is already lined up for the job, and Sean Wayne coming in more as a director of rugby role.
Could he still be the England coach then, having coached 0 official proper games there? Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a full-time role.
No.
I think even the NRL, who are clearly looking to cost cut as well, have said to Mal Meninga that they're looking to halve his salary on the basis of the fact that they don't play enough games to justify a full-time role for a national coach.
Congratulations to whoever wins the Betfred Women's Super League this year of being crowned the best team in the world, because the NRLW ain't playing. So there you go. Well done, Australia. Is there anything I'll say about Salford? Because I saw none of it, so
Salford
I can't make
defend
any
their
comment.
own line. That's very, very vulnerable.
Did they have anyone sin bin this week? Because that's usually happens. I mean, I could read the paper. Could. You might have been trying to get some lasagna or something. Was it lasagna?
No, it was sandwiches at 2
Yeah.
with fries, chunky fries.
So press feed's back at football ground.
And 7 o'clock, which was actually 7:30 by the time anybody could get in and eat it, because down at Golden Point extra time. It was a chicken curry.
Ooh. No sin bins. No sin bins. So that's a positive for Salford. Who are second bottom of the table. Oh, Wakefield flying high now in not bottom. Let's get Wakefield out of the way. We won.
Again?
Yeah.
You can say that.
Willie in.
Twice in a week.
Willie in. Well, Burrows put his support behind Willie poaching.
Well, Willie was...
Rob wants Willie in. There you go.
It's back to that Newman advert. Well, Rob came on, was clearly influenced by Willie as an assistant at Leeds, and I think Rob partly developed his own coaching career when he was doing the under-15s to start with, and then the reserves. I think he lent on people like Willie and his experience a lot, and he is just one of the game's lovely men.
I love Willie poaching. So here's my proviso on him getting the job, right? Because
you don't want him to tarnish his...
No, because I don't think he would anyway. Because we are what we are, aren't we? At Wakefield, we're not as if we're St Helens and we win everything, and then Kieran Cunningham comes in and we don't win stuff. Or do, I can't remember. I think this is because I always go back to things in history, and history sometimes repeats itself. I think it was Shane McNally who was in charge, who had a great spell, and when he got the sack, his assistant took over, and that was the other Tony Smith, who had a great run as caretaker, got the job, and wasn't quite as good then.
No.
Now, granted, the club was a lot different back then.
It does happen that caretakers get the audition
so that's
first,
my only,
do it favourably, get the job, and
that's my only.
I think Willie's got a track record.
That's okay.
I think the fact that he has now been under so many people who kind of influenced him, but also it's always emerged from everywhere he's been with the love of the players.
Yeah.
So, you know, Hull KR speak incredibly fondly of him and the time that he spent there. Ian Watson was saying, you know, clearly when he worked with him at Salford, that how great he was, and how you know influential that Willie was to the group of players, and Willie coming up with, you know, odd attacking suggestions in certain game plans were much welcomed by Ian Watson when he was finding his feet as a coach. So no, I think Willie has deserves the chance, and he said, you know, I played because I wanted to get to the highest level I could. I'm coaching because I want to get to the highest level I can. I'd give him the job to play. Again, there's going to be a bit of a turnover of players at Wakefield, but I think give him a full pre-season with the bulk of what he's got, and he'd be good.
And then when Richard Agar left, James Webster took over, and we all remember how that ended. With what's his name, Brian Smith. So Wakefield won, which is exciting. Tom Johnson.
But Wakefield are playing good rugby. Yeah. They're playing entertaining rugby.
I mean,
they're taking risks, which is great. They're playing to their strengths. Jacob Miller seems to have been told, "You're a halfback, aren't you? Do you want to play like a halfback?" Because
it's more than one game. Initially, you're thinking, were they just not doing it for Chester? Which
I just,
sometimes,
I think again
because it's been a
pressure mounts
thing.
And pressure mounts in different ways for different people, and then principles become slightly inhibited because the pressure mounts, and you've got to get results. And I'm not going to make a mistake as a player. I'm not going to pick somebody who, you know, might try something as a player, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in some ways. And only very briefly spoken to Willie since he took over, and he just said he wanted them to enjoy it, and it seems to be working. You have to have a bit more than that.
Yeah.
But
some of the signings are interesting for next year. I think that's the one word I'd use to describe them. But
be interesting to see again what he thinks his best team is with the bodies that he's selecting from. But nobody's mentioning Bill Tupou. How's he doing?
Well, he's out for the season, but he has got. Someone mentioned this to me last night. He has got a deal for next year, which is.
Because I know that
it's a concern, is it? Because he's 32 now.
Well, there's all this controversy about Samisoni Langi signing a contract and then deciding he wants another year at the Dragons. And I thought, well, if Langi had come, that's almost Bill Tupou, isn't it? So it will be interesting. I hope Tom Johnson's okay. Again, another head knock, and concerned for it. It wasn't a great collision with the grass. It looked a bad one, but you just got to be really careful. He's had 5 weeks out with a
especially
because he couldn't get rid of
what we know with Stevie Ward, which is very fresh in the memory. And more of these things are going to happen because there's more and more research into these things, and the long-term effects of concussions and what it can do to the brain and to mental health are very, very concerning. Especially with things that have happened in the last week or so. If you read up about them, it's.
I think.
I worry about their health. I worry about players' health.
Well, I think this season's been an abject failure in terms of player welfare, and we've said that all along, and I stand by that. That we were extremely fortunate to get 2 games of such quality on a Saturday after everybody had played the Monday before. So if you want more games like we saw, then spread them out a little bit more.
2 out of 6 ain't bad. So Wakefield won. People misunderstood my point about Tom Johnson on Twitter, because obviously I was not at the game. I was at Bellevue watching the women play, and I saw his try on social media, so well done, that was out there quickly. And the point I made, why is he not famous? And I understand the world has changed a lot since Martin Afire scored loads of tries and everyone knew who he was. But the world has also changed in social media is the thing now, and you can get these clips out to people without having to watch BBC One at the right time and at the right place. And I'm not comparing them as players necessarily. To say all he does is finish tries is irrelevant. David Beckham took 3 kicks. People know him for that and his hair and being married to a pop star. But he didn't do lots of tackling and stuff. Well, he did, and he got sent off, cost us the World Cup. They had an effigy of him at West Ham, didn't they? But people don't say, oh, David, he don't track back enough.
He does the things. He's that sell the sport.
Well, if I don't say Tom Johnson and I say Tommy Makinson, or say whoever does it at Leeds or Wigan or whichever club, it doesn't matter. These people should be household names. I know it's difficult in this era because...
Absolutely.
See, we always go back to 1992, whatever, Great Britain in the World Cup final, Scully and all that. He's all right. How is he?
He's all right.
You spoke to him how many times today?
3.
3 times. Yeah, he's all right.
Went to the boxing on Saturday.
Did he enjoy it?
Some of it.
Some of it.
The bits that were free, he really enjoyed.
So yes,
That's a queue for 50 minutes to get a pint.
So, yeah. Did he have to pay for that? Then?
No, he sent his son. Jonathan had to queue 50 minutes to get a pint.
So everything's changed, and I understand that. And I did make a point of, just before he won a gold medal, that Tom Daley was famous having, in a sport which is primarily only watched during the Olympics, watches diving the rest of the time, apart from diving aficionados. But he's a big celebrity person. I'm not talking about tennis or golf, which is on all the time. But people know more women's footballers because they're on BBC One or whatever, and they're on Sky, and it's been heavily promoted. They'll know these people, and they don't know who Tom Johnson is, and I don't know why. And yes, you can say this. I couldn't name an England rugby union player, probably. Chris Ashton still playing? Dennis Solomon, I don't know. Oh, Owen Farrell. His dad went Farrell. His dad. Astor Scully. But why aren't they famous? We've got all these stats. We've got the stats, which is great, because we spoke about this on the programme in April.
We're taking no credit for that, but we did say, if you're going to make stars out of these people, we need to know what they're doing, when they're doing it, how fast are they running. Or...
It's interesting some people wore those GPS things, still didn't think they liked wearing them. But, we need to find some way of getting these people to be famous. I'm not watching Question Sport until the Rugby League plays on there, because I really don't want to watch it. But I'm going to have to write something in the column. He's back, yeah. With Paddy McGuinness. Do you not read my column last month?
No, I didn't know if it was back. I knew they'd announced that he was going to be...
I just read to check what bits I've got in. Yeah, it's back.
Can I have 750 words, please? Here's 2,000.
Yeah, I'm struggling this. I am struggling, viewer, listener. Really struggling this month. So much so, most of it is not about Rugby League again. You can be surprised.
It'll fit in perfectly.
The further back in the magazine you are, the less Rugby League content there is. That's how it works. So we need to make people stars anyway. But that's whether it's stats, whether it's clips, or whether it's this, that, or the other. Other than Rugby League becoming an Olympic sport, which is not going to be, despite some idiots in Australia thinking so. The same people who think Channel 4 should show it because they're in Leeds. I don't know. But this is the interesting thing, and then it goes back to that point in the paper, and we'll get back to the rest of the games at Magic Weekend shortly, about Sky and the change of format or whatever. It doesn't matter, does it, whether we have one league of 24 teams, 10 leagues of 3 teams or whatever. No one's going to watch just because your league table is set out like this.
No, it's how
about
engaging your product is.
So whether we have 2 leagues of 10 with this 35 million that Derek Bowman was found behind the back of a sofa or not.
Even though Wigan admitted that the amount that we were getting was 24 million.
So where's this other 11 million come from? Because it's not coming from Premier Sport, I can guarantee you that. It doesn't matter what format we come up with, it's about the action.
You've got to produce the canvas that the players can perform the best upon. And that's less.
The Catalan Saints game could have been in the Super 8s or regular first past the post or whatever format we've had in the 126 years of Rugby League. It would have still been a great game. We would have got people watching because of how it finished.
People talking about it, yeah.
So, if we cut off the 4 teams at the bottom of the League One now anyway, if we did do that, how would people going to react to Rochdale being cut off? If North Wales would have been 4th bottom, I'm assuming people are going, oh, well, never mind, it's only Wales. But
they're not on the M62, were they? Fine.
No. Do you want to say anything about Huddersfield? obviously everyone's raving about Will Price, who's a very exciting young talent.
Scored a great early try.
And again, I hope we don't go, and I've said this, we don't go down the route, which they seem to be doing with that tennis player at the minute, of saying, oh, that's a big thing, blah, 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 and hyping him up beyond.
And what seems to be happening is that a lot of clubs, now that he is appearing on tip sheets, are running very big forwards at him throughout the entire 80 minutes. And you've got to be, again, I admire the way St Helens have brought on Lewis Dodd, who's already played something like 50 games for them, but still feels like he's making his debut every time you see him. And they've started him as a backup hooker and brought him into games to get used to what's expected in terms of the defensive intensity, so that when they say to him, right, you're now a half-back, that part of the game is a bit more natural to him. And you would hope that Ian Watson will do similar with Will Price. I don't think he's got too many other options at the moment, because again,
that's the problem, isn't it?
We have to talk about injuries. There are always teams that get lots of injuries this year because of COVID, and again, lack of the ability to train during the week because people aren't fit because of the schedule that they're under, or they're playing for a game that's in only 3 or 4 days' time. Numbers are limited, and maybe some players are playing a little more than their coaches had anticipated earlier in their careers. But yeah, if we look after him, he's clearly a great talent. Another one who, like Josh Hewless at Warrington, you're looking at kids across this weekend and you get a great picture of where some clubs are in developing new talent, and the successful ones are giving their kids a bit more of a chance.
We know Huddersfield have got a great pathway, haven't they? Because obviously they've got a great man in charge of it in Andy Kelly. Ian Watson wasn't happy that they got fined by the RFL. He should have a word with the chairman of Super League, see if he can sort it out.
Yeah, I wonder if he knows who that is.
Smiling Ken, as he's now called. We should got that picture of him. Well, let me show the people the picture. There he is. Here he is. Happy to see the Catalans win the league leadership. He's got his own. He's got one of his own.
Well,
I remember him smiling behind Danny Brough. He looked happy on that occasion, but he wasn't neutral then. So that was Huddersfield versus Wakefield, which kicked off Sunday. Warrington versus Wigan. Warrington, of course, who are becoming the Warrington Tigers next year, having signed Greg Minikin, which is an interesting one.
Well, it is, because we've just spoken about how good Josh Hewless might be. But if everybody's fit and ready to go at the start of next season, he's not going to be in the team. So I don't know. Clearly, there was some issue with Greg Minikin that meant he left Castleford under Darrell's watch. That may have been a financial thing. But he must like him. He must think that he's going to partner maybe Peter Mattout here, who was excellent again for Castleford.
He was, wasn't he?
I don't know. I just hope Darrell has got a fantastic track record of developing players. So I hope he's not just signing. Well, there's a pressure for success, isn't there, at Warrington? So you'll tend to sign players that you think will win you the grand final, rather than say, well, there's 3 or 4 young kids here, I really need to give them some more game time, so that when we do get to win that grand final, they can do it again and again and again.
They are third as we head into...
And could still finish second.
This closing run of fixtures. They beat Wigan 10-6. Scored the second half. Again, I didn't pay too much attention to this game, so I was doing other things. But
I mean, you're not
important win for Warrington.
In a game like that, you're not going to get many chances. So when you do get them, you've got to be doubly sharp to take them. And Wigan are like a blunt knife at the moment. And even the very last play of the game, you need a score.
Yeah.
So keep the ball alive at all costs. If you're gonna not die wondering, knock on because you're trying to offload it when you shouldn't, or put in a kick a bit like Catalan did at the end of their game. Maloney's kick was bang on the money, but it also was in an area of the field where it could have caused the most damage. The most insipid little grubber forward at the end of a set when Wigan needed to win the game almost sort of summed up where they are on attack at the moment. And whilst Adrian Lam is talking up, we've still got a chance, I'm still proud of them, and yeah, we've got 1 or 2 things. And we now know Adrian Lam is leaving. It's almost as if the pressure seems as though it's taken its toll on the way they want to play. You know, John Bateman is trying so hard to be the John Bateman at Canberra. He clearly had a shoulder injury, and he wanted to stay on and do his bit for the team. And you know, he was taking painkillers while the game was in progress. But it's just not working for them at the moment. It's almost as if the season can't end soon enough for Wigan. And having said that, they'll now go on and win the grand final, clearly.
Oh, of course. Well, we know Warrington.
That's what we can do.
Not there.
But Warrington just, again, when they've got the ascendancy, they need to be able to not revert back to pattern, but to keep playing through it. They did that against St Helens on Monday. They had a fantastic 10-minute spell in the run-up to half-time, took the lead, didn't score a point in the second half. I think Gareth Widdop's playing really well at the moment, which is great. But I still can't see enough in Warrington as to how they're going to topple they've beaten St Helens and Catalan this season. They can do it, but I don't know. They get to a point in a game where everything's riding on it, and something inhibits them a little bit. Maybe it won't this year. Maybe Steve Price will go out in a blaze of glory.
We'll find out. We'll find out who they got this week. They've got Salford. Of course, there's another 2 points for Warrington. And Hull KR beat Lee in the least surprising result of the weekend, because Hull KR are quite good and Lee, unfortunately for them, are not. I mean, the most important thing, as I pointed out on Twitter yesterday on the Forty20 account going into the game, was they put the Irish fella next to Haggerty, the league coach, who obviously played for Ireland despite being from Rochdale or wherever he's from, St Helens. Tony Smith, who is a British citizen, still had the Australian flag next to his name.
I should at least have 2. But again, Tony Smith very cleverly brought some players in to give them a chance, see what they could do, and give them a bit of experience in the run-up to hopefully.
Well, Joe Keasley's now the greatest halfback on the in
but
Humber
it
side.
works because he encourages his players to play to their strengths, and their strengths are to entertain, because that's the kind of player that he signs. And Staunton was great. Matty Staunton was really good. So I think, it's exciting. Hull KR are a really interesting case in how they've slightly transformed themselves on and off the field in a kind of way that we've been saying the game needs to look at. So one of the only teams to go to Toronto when they were in the Championship, and thought, we've sampled this event idea, this experience, that it isn't just about the 80 minutes, and this whole Craven Street idea, and revamping their stadium and inviting different members of the community in to use their facility, alongside now developing some young kids who are going to be the core of the team going forward, and having a coach who has a philosophy that says, I'm never going to condemn you for trying to throw a pass. I might have a go at you if you don't cover it back, if you drop it.
Have a go.
Looking at signing overseas players who enhance. So, I think Kenny Dowell has been outstanding. Ryan Hall has been arguably the best signing that nobody knew how good he would be when he came back, compared to they knew how good he was when he left. And he's on a par. His stats are astonishing. His tries ratio is still fantastic, but he is an ultimate professional. He will come into training and will not accept anything than the standard that he's been used to all of his life, and that started under Tony Smith. So again, I think they've just got that on-off field balance really right this year, and I hope they make the playoffs. I think it'd be a terrific story if they did.
That's Tony Smith, not the other Tony Smith. And they play Castleford at home on Saturday. It's on the telly.
Big game.
I imagine was it Craven Street is called, beer festival thing? That'd be packed. So many Rugby League players love a beer festival, apparently, judging by Instagram.
I just think it'd be a fantastic atmosphere, and it should be a great crowd. And it is almost, in some respects, an elimination game. So season on the line kind of stuff. And it would be really intriguing to see if Darryl can get Cass up like he did for the Cup semi-final, or whether he's running out of troops if Paul McShane is rumoured to be again back in a boot and possibly injured for this week. or whether Tony Smith can say, I know normally you tend, when the big games come around, you tend to find out how strong your squad is. Has he done enough this year to get them to a level where they genuinely do believe in themselves and can win those clutch moments? It'd be good. I'm looking forward to that.
It should be a good game, shouldn't it? It's something exciting. Saints versus Leeds on Friday, which will also be exciting, I'm sure. Terry Ruxpin, who earlier accused Hull FC of having too many wrong-uns, says, doesn't seem many wrong-uns at Hull KR. Excellent recruitment. Are they still signing the same players from the same agent now? Or have they moved on from that now?
I don't know how that works, clearly.
So that was Magic Weekend. There you go. We'll talk about rugby for now.
The other thing about Magic Weekend...
Yes, yes, there are other issues, yes.
No, the only one thing. I wanted to praise the match officials.
Boom!
It's all... Clearly, they won't have got every decision right. Clearly, some supporters from some clubs will say the match official cost them the game. But what it showed, particularly with the Catalan and Saints game, and to a slightly lesser extent with Leeds and Hull, is if you don't have match officials that allow the game to play out, then we don't get the spectacle that we got. So I think we should say, I thought they were great across the weekend, and part of that festival feel and the fact that we're talking in glowing terms about the weekend being great for the sport,
yes,
they have to take some credit for that.
Because my brain goes boom, boom, boom during the programme. Before I forget, I've seen people, because you mentioned match officials, saying that obviously not seen the incident, don't know the full facts, saying that maybe you shouldn't get a signed eye ban for punching the referee. No.
Not even debating.
It come on. It's like heat of the moment. No. Come on.
There is a line. You have crossed the line. You cannot go back.
A couple of people mentioned it over the weekend, and I think it's a fair point. Magic Weekend is a great excuse for clubs to sell different kits. Leeds had one of their regular kits on, didn't they? Which was, very Leeds-like. Got an email this morning, Rhino's sale. But because I can't buy the women's shirt, I'm not interested. I should reply back saying, please sell the women's shirt.
Please reserve me.
Yeah.
One of the.
Can I get the letters on the back and everything? Can I get a shirt with the name on the back? That would look very wrong on many various levels. But speaking of kits, what the hell was St Helens? What was that?
Well, it was.
In the past, they've worn those great autism kits,
yeah,
which
well,
at least have a message behind
I think that was the message, and I think it was designed by a 14-year-old fan to sell the idea of the autism message. But
it just didn't work.
Well, unless you explain why they're doing it.
I mean, I'm sure I'm not saying it's a terrible design, and there were some terrible designs, but it have a charity round at another point of the season, because if we've got Magic Weekend, which is a thing, let's have another thing here in June, May. Well, here's charity round.
I also think you need a proper heritage round or a proper armed forces round, and clubs do celebrate them, but it's almost ad hoc when they decide in their, we're going to bring out a shirt with the names of the players that fell in the First World War. Absolutely, completely the right thing to do. But let's have a full heritage round. And
we're still a big fan of Castleford's 101st anniversary of the World War show.
We couldn't quite get it out in time, but it's still an anniversary.
No, it was funny. But I'm all for clubs bringing out 1 million kits and trying to make money. I've not got a problem with that whatsoever. It's funny, but do it at a different time of year. Because then at least you can promote something else as another thing, and simply can send out a press release and say, look at us, we're doing something good. And if you are doing it as well for charity, explicitly say in black and white how much money you're giving. Don't say a percentage, don't say this amount of profits. Say how much. Because if you're going to give a £5 from each shirt, that's fine. At least I know you're giving a £5. Saying a percentage, no, it doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it in 2021. You need to tell me. But yeah, some shirts are good, some shirts are bad. But time and a place, especially when, and I know that the grey shirt is Catalan's away stroke cup or whatever shirt, but if we know Saints are wearing white and have Catalans in some Catalan colours.
Yes, the Sange or would have gone down very well.
Here's Mark. Too quick to criticise the Saints again. Same old, same old. I was slagging off the shirt. The show's probably not for you, Mark.
I don't think we have criticised so.
Just the shirt.
Louis got a new deal.
Yeah, which is good.
Which even Saints said he was a madman.
Yeah, so that's all right.
Read about his thoughts.
Still second in the table, Saints. Still, you would fancy them to win the grand final because they've got the course and distance.
And they've got now the knowledge that they can't win the treble. That will be burning away at them. I think they'd love to play Catalan again as soon as possible. I'd be very surprised if the bookmakers don't think that St Helens are still the favourites.
People get very het up about things that are irrelevant. Outside of the Super League Magic Weekend, was any news coming out around Magic Weekend? I mean, if
some players have moved, some players haven't.
If you want me to criticise things, then I can see something in the paper. I just don't have the heart to do it, but or get the abuse for it. See, sometimes even tweeting praise about the referee. What's going on? What is happening?
I thought there were some great match official performances, and they deserve to get the praise.
It was a good weekend, and everyone enjoyed it, apart from fans of the teams that lost.
And Ken Davey.
He didn't enjoy himself.
Couldn't have looked more glum, really.
Looked like he'd lost his deposit.
How do you know what that feels?
Well, I assume he didn't, but you know what I mean. It's like going to a general election and losing. But he's not been to a grand final, though, has he? He won't be done
Maybe
this year.
that's what it is. Maybe just...
See, Mark thinks we're picking on St Helens. Oh no, the show is for Yorkshire folk. We just spent half the programme praising Catalan Dragons, Warrington, and it's not my fault that Leeds and Hull are both from Yorkshire and neither Wakefield and Huddersfield. Although as we said earlier, Huddersfield played in the Lancashire League, and Salford lost. So, I mean, feel free to go listen to BBC Radio Manchester because they do a very good programme, and there might be more to your taste. So the Magic Weekend, all in all, positive.
Oh, absolutely. Couldn't really see a negative. I think we were concerned that we wouldn't get 60,000 people there. Wouldn't look great on the telly. Players would be exhausted and perhaps not give us the kind of entertainment that we saw. But the concept of Magic Weekend was superbly reinforced. The idea that it's a festival and it means something for the players to play in that sort of cup final environment in a modern stadium. There were a lot of signposts there that we should do more of it rather than less.
Should move it to Middlesbrough because that's in Yorkshire. In the Championship, Whitehaven, who are not from Yorkshire, beat Batley late on.
Good result for Whitehaven because Batley have been the form team this year.
Very good result for Whitehaven. They're just outside the playoffs.
Well, again, you wouldn't.
Oh, again, I can't work out.
You wouldn't back against them making the playoffs now.
No, they're at home to Halifax, who were beaten by Featherstone. That's one of those weird rivalries that people won't understand. It's like I hate Huddersfield, but I can't explain to you why because it goes back 20 years and it just doesn't make any sense. As opposed to like in Castle or Leeds. So yes, it was like brilliant. We've beaten Huddersfield, well the men have anyway. So Feather beaten Halifax 54-22. So they're second, as they have been, and they're extending their percentage.
Can't get caught. Yeah.
So they'll win the Silver Shield. Bradford lost to Toulouse at Dewsbury because Speedway's on.
But the manner of that defeat would be a bit concerning.
60 points to 6. Well, apparently they're all forward anyway, so really French.
Oh, well, that's probably why then.
Yeah. Up Toulouse at the Catalans.
Great Toulouse are now confirmed as having a home.
Which it's going to be on TV apparently, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Which is good.
I wonder if anybody we know will get the trip to Toulouse.
Trip to by Wickham. Newcastle lost to York in the Friday night game. Which is an important result for York.
Very good game apparently as well. Very entertaining. What was the crowd? Yeah, over 1,000, which again encouraging.
Dewsbury beat Sheffield. That was another late one there, wasn't it?
Yeah, Sheffield 8 points up, and their coach was saying, masters of their own downfall.
They might be back home though next season, so that'd be good.
Well, it looks like a stand is emerging.
Wow.
From the Olympic Legacy Park.
Don't say things like that because like all these plastic Wakefield stadiums that we've seen over the years. London beat Swinton in a very tight game, 34-32, which is not good news. Swinton and Oldham, I'm assuming, are gone by now. But no one seems to be confirming anything in the minute, because no one knows what's going to happen.
Subject to what was set out at the beginning of the season, I think they are nailed on relegated.
Widnes beat Oldham 62-4 in front of a crowd of not applicable. Shouldn't be not applicable.
Again, Widnes a bit enigmatic at the moment. Lose by 60 one week, win by 60 the following.
So that's the championship, because we didn't see any of the games. But I'm sure it was exciting.
But we are going to, because all the playoffs are going to be on Sky, which is fantastic.
League One, Doncaster edged out Coventry, which is always disappointing for this
13-12 to Coventry at half time, so another great performance from the Bears this year.
I think I always wonder, because there's a lot of high profile sports people who are not keen on vaccinations, but I do wonder how many painkiller injections they've had in their careers and how many supplements they take on a weekly basis.
Well, so we saw John Bateman take painkillers during the game yesterday.
Just a question. Just asking questions. I want to be on that. I want to be on that channel like that bloke who goes around the coast. Could be him. Hunslet beat West Wales 82-6. Just not happen for West Wales.
It's a bit disappointing, because they had a couple of results not long ago.
Yeah, they were close, weren't they? Yeah.
You can see change, and then that is an absolute thrashing.
Cougar Park, which is now the home of the Sir Tom Moore Door, they beat North Wales 34-14, which is obviously disappointing for the Crusaders, because they've been on that great run.
Fantastic run.
So a big result for Keighley. London Scholars losing to Workington 35-18 on Saturday afternoons. Workington keeping the pressure on Barrow, who just
last minute
edged out Rochdale Hornets.
79th minute try from Declan Hume and sure-footed Shaw.
Champion teams do champion things. So does that
converted?
Does the top team in League One go up to? We don't know what's going to happen. I don't know why.
Well, I think the idea was they got automatic promotion, and then the playoffs were between the next
5. Did they get a shield?
Or do the playoffs include Oldham and Swinton?
Is there? What, we were asked a question earlier. Apart from Mark,
I can't even remember what we agreed at the beginning of this season.
Mark says you're not good at feedback. Feedback is a gift. It is, but this programme's free as well, so we can do whatever we want. Teddy says, I don't care. Well, I do care, obviously. Teddy says, is Super League 2 likely to happen? Is it contingent on a TV deal? What's Super League 2? This is this made-up thing. The problem with the story is, man says he's got 35 million. No one asks where the 35 million's from. Well, it's like Sir Alan Stanford all over again. Oh yeah, I've got 20 million pounds here in a big box. I'm going to get Flying Ian Botham and Viv Richards and all these people. I'm going to have this cricket tournament. But where's the 35 million from? Where's it suddenly appeared from, as we said earlier?
Why is it Super League 2? The issues are, how many full-time teams have you got? And a mixed division of full-time and part-time can't be called Super League.
Which Marcus said on this programme for donkey's years.
I think I said 2016, it's looking like you need 16 full-time teams in Super League.
And as we said earlier, whether it's 2/8 or whatever, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's the number of fixtures you play. And again, we've got to get away from purely home and away.
I don't know. I don't know where we're going, because no one knows where we're going, and that's the issue. The club should know by now. How can we be coming to the end of the season and we don't know whether 4 teams are going to be randomly binned on the whims of chairman with self-interest at heart?
Well, what we do know is that the Super League have offered to give to the RFL 5 of their £24 million, and out of that £5 million, the RFL need to fund themselves the Championship and League One, because they are under their control.
It's a good job no one in Women's Super League gets paid, isn't it? Well, almost. It's a shame Lee are from Greater Manchester, because if it was a Yorkshire club I could say this, but no one put a gun to Derek Bowman's head and said, you have to be in Super League, Derek, next season. No. They could have been in the Championship.
Derek could have called their bluff and waited to hear that he'd been given the place and told that his was the best option, and then turned around and said, yes, but of course I'm not coming in unless you give me the same money as everybody else.
So when people say, oh, they should be given more time, I said, no, I'm sorry. It's not the same as Catalans. It's not the same as Toulouse or whatever. It's not as if Lee haven't been around for 150 billion years. And I'm not picking on Lee. It would have been the same if it was Feathers, and it would be the same if it was Toulouse. They all applied knowing what the lie of the land was.
And again, if you look at the teams that are likely to be fighting out the £1 million game and a place in Super League, Toulouse have built this year a Super League team playing in the Championship. I'm not sure anybody else in that division has done that. So clearly they would get extra finance to buy some more players. They wouldn't have the same loan arrangements that they've had in the past. Clearly not much for this season because of the COVID restrictions. So you've got to be very careful if if Lee hasn't worked coming up from the Championship with less ability to sign the quality of player they need, unless you've already got a Super League team in place. I mean, let's face it, Toronto had a Super League team in place, and the first 5 games they played in the Super League, they didn't win. So you can't. I don't believe you can go into Super League and say we still intend to be a part-time club.
Super League break. I need to correct something. Bradford weren't at Dewsbury this week because of Speedway. That's next week.
No, it was a concert.
It's a dance event. Thanks, Craig. They also had 10 players out, 4 due to COVID, track and trace. Could have cancelled the game, but didn't. So there you go. They're still in the playoff hunt now, so we'll see them on the telly soon, and everyone can get excited about Bradford being on the telly again. In controversial statements, by the way, I don't think Huddersfield's a sporting city. Again, this is just
for football.
Yeah, because when they got to the Football League playoffs, semi-finals to go up to the Premier League, they didn't sell out against Sheffield Wednesday. If you're not going to sell out a home game with a chance of getting to the Premier League,
against a local rival,
and they've devalued Super League tickets as well. Well, I won't go next year because they're not cheap. But I'll go the year after because I know they're going to sell them off at a tenner again. Mark says, Phil, can you explain why we need to get away from home and away?
Yeah, because I think it structures the season to you've got to have a certain number of games. If you can actually have more teams, but you don't have to play everybody home and away.
It's like the NFL or whatever.
Yes, and even the NRL. It's the number of games, not necessarily the number of teams who have to play each other home. You can have 16 teams in Super League, but you may only want to play,
As we know, Rugby League was great.
22 games or whatever.
Rugby League was at its best in the 60s, mainly 1967 and 1968, when the best team ever won everything. Well, the one that...
And the thing is, the playoffs ensure that if you haven't had an equitable fixture list, that's what the playoffs sort out. I mean, again, it's the 60th anniversary of Leeds winning their first ever championship in 1961. They barely played a Lancashire team throughout.
Well, that's the thing is, in those days,
you played all the Yorkshire teams home and away, and you played the odd Lancashire. The odd Lancashire team they played that year had beaten them.
Might have been Liverpool.
And then the 3 teams they had to play in the playoffs were all Lancashire teams, and everybody said, it doesn't matter that you finished top of the league.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start playing St Helens and Warrington and Oldham, I think it was, Swinton maybe, you will lose. And
that's Swinton when they were good for the viewers who...
Early 60s they were great. And clearly they didn't. Hey. But we've never had an equitable fixture list with teams necessarily playing everybody home and away.
The old Championship Trophy, of course, which was lovely, and not a big thing with an S on it.
And what you tend to find is that your derby games, definitely you play home and away because they're money spinners, but you don't play every team. And then you meet them in the playoffs, it becomes a bigger event.
The Leeds Rhinos, who of course were Magic Weekend winners, are also going to the grand final in the Wheelchair Super League.
Very close though, 63, 66.
It's not in the paper. It was against Halifax, was it?
Yeah.
Which is a great rivalry they've had over the last few years. Who are they playing in the final?
Leyland.
Leyland.
Yes, who beat the Argonauts.
The Argonauts.
In Medway.
In Medway.
And being filmed.
September.
No. Is it next? Is it this Sunday?
I don't know. I read that date somewhere, so I don't know where I've got
Could
that
be.
from. But it's going to be. It's going to be on telly anyway soon.
Yes, it will be announced that it will be.
So that's good.
Live.
Because if anyone watched the international or the Challenge Cup final,
Brilliant. And the grand final again will be right up there.
yeah. So Well, the chance for Leeds to win silver.
And I think Leyland in their first final.
Where's Leyland?
Lancashire.
So a real War of the Roses.
War of the Roses.
And one of those clubs
taking place in
I thought it was
Medway.
in Medway. I thought it was one of those places from over at Pennines.
Aye.
And not attached to a. And this is what we're seeing with many of these clubs. Not attached
Well, that's
to
what Martin Coy told us when he came on the show, that there is no one size.
Especially the Argonauts are not attached to Kent Invicta or whatever.
Yeah. And some clubs clearly take on the brand of, and others are part of a community club, and others are specific to that branch of the sport. So
the more people see these things, the better. So, and the more Rugby League on TV, the better. Whether it's Championship, League One, Super League, Women's Super League, wheelchair.
Well, can we call it Women's Super League now?
Well, everything's
I'm getting
Women's
concerned.
Super League. Everything. Well, yeah, but everything.
My
The
television
cricket is
this
as well,
weekend was bombarded with that I could watch Women's Super
Well, you
League.
just point out Arsenal Chelsea wasn't.
But it
Rugby
wasn't
League.
Rugby League,
No,
was it?
Everton Man City. No, it was the other one. Because in the Women's Super League playoffs, in the main thing, there was only one game this week because Leeds and Hull was called off due to a beer festival, due to COVID issues and a number of injuries that did not meet the threshold of 7 senior players ruled out. So they had to lose 24-0. I mean, I don't want to say that if I was a betting man, I would probably taken Saints minus 24 in that one. Because they're the best team.
And they're from the other side.
Yeah, they are the best team. I might go to Cass on Sunday to see them. I haven't decided what I'm doing.
Who are they playing?
They're playing St Helens, Cass St Helens.
Ooh. Cass need to win that if
I
they
think it's at the Mentos Jungle, but I don't know. Leeds play Wigan, wherever Leeds play Wheatwood. And in the most important competition, the Bedford and Women's Super League Shield.
Which one's on Twitch?
It doesn't say. On Sunday, it's Warrington versus Featherstone, which will be a good game because Featherstone beat Brentford yesterday, 28-4. They streamed that on their YouTube, which is interesting because I thought you weren't allowed to do that anymore because of the deal with Twitch. But Featherstone and Renegades can do whatever they want. But fair play to them. Katie Hepworth was the one who scored the great one-on-one try, which if you haven't seen it, I retweeted on our account yesterday. So go look for that. I was able to watch that while I was watching a live game. No wonder I got the score wrong. And also on Sunday, apparently, it's Bradford versus Wakefield, but it isn't. It's next Tuesday. Because Wakefield lost 78-0 to Huddersfield. Oh, it's depressing. And it was at Wakefield, but it was Huddersfield's home game. I don't know why. I don't know where Huddersfield play their home games. They're probably not played a game at home this season because everything's been played at Warrington or Wakefield. But
I know their academy play at Huddersfield YMCA.
It's fun to stay there apparently. But they were good. They were good, Huddersfield. Well, you don't win 78-0 and be rubbish, do you? It doesn't tend to happen.
No, you've got to be pretty ruthless.
It's tough times. Just not happening. Confidence. It's not as if there's a massive gulf in quality of talent, you'd say, at that end of the table. Obviously, when you look at Feffin, they've got Andrew Dobson, who's a proper legend and all that, but everyone else who's not been signed by York, I don't even like to say that without people thinking I'm going to have a dig at York now. See, they've got York in Yorkshire. It's in the name, isn't it? Huddersfield, growing it. As I said in the interview with the player after the game, Bella Sykes, thought they'd be bottom of the table at the start of the season, and they were, and then they've grown together as a team, and now they might be in a grand final and win some silverware, which would be amazing for them, wouldn't it?
It would. Is that a double header, by the way?
I think it is. I mean, I'm hoping to be there on whenever it is.
At Headingley?
Some point in October. Yeah, I mean, you'd assume that I know York beat Wigan yesterday. I saw bits of it when I got in. 20 points to 6. Wigan have dropped off. York have improved, obviously. But I still think the grand final will be between Saints and Leeds. I can't see it not being between Saints and Leeds. I might be wrong. I don't think I will be. But Saints looking to win everything. I don't know if there's a league leader. Well, there can't be a league leadership, can there? Because if there would have been, Leeds would have won it. But that didn't exist now.
I think this season it'd been hard to award it as well.
Yeah, there's no medals, just in case Cass get upset after that debacle from a couple of years ago. Seems a long time ago now, that doesn't it? But well done Huddersfield when you win, and they get a week off. because they've played all 4 of their fixtures. I don't know how the playoffs work. I assume that after this week there'll be semi-finals next week.
I'm guessing.
I mean, if Wakefield beat Bradford, we're in the semi-finals. This is like when we lost 100-0 to Castleford and nearly got kicked out of the cup.
If there are 5 teams, you would think that the one finishing first would get the week off.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that's how.
Because I think the semi-finals are the week of the 25th and 26th.
Okay.
But then that means there would be 2 weeks before the grand final. That would work out, wouldn't it? Because it's the day after the men's final. So at the RFL, if you're watching, can you let us know what everything is? I tried to look on the website earlier, but I couldn't find what I wanted to find out.
I don't know if anybody gets a second chance in the women's play.
I mean, I'm hoping that we beat Bradford next week and get into the semi-finals for the opportunity to lose to somebody, just for the fun of it, just to extend our pain. But you know, this is what it is. Yeah, and this is
unless the bottom team drops out of the 5, and then it's 1 against 4 and 2 against 3.
I mean, I'm assuming that's what it is. Yeah, Saints Leeds in the grand final.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, Saints are going to win. I'm sure I've said that before. Get in trouble. Always in trouble. But that's the women's Super League. It'll be on Twitch or something. I don't know who the Australian fellow was doing the commentary yesterday was, but he used some interesting words, especially for Australian, more than 2 syllables. We like to say that. John Davison's going to be joining us again in a few weeks. So, fingers crossed. I mean, he might not be now. But, is that all the news from Rugby League? Is that everything that's happened?
I can't think of anything else.
I can't think of anything else that's happened. Other than from what I understand, Matchroom put on a great show on Saturday night at Headingley. Which has nothing to do with Rugby League, but
what could have been?
Yeah.
Barry Hearn. Well, they know how to put on a show, don't they?
And they know how to treat people.
And there were 20,000 people there to see it and be part of it. You couldn't get a taxi for love nor money afterwards.
I didn't see last week's poll in... well, you never can you? I didn't see last week's poll in League Express. They had... who should Wakefield appoint as their new coach? They were really struggling after 3 options.
Right.
No disrespect for the other gentlemen involved in there, but after poaching, who's in situ, Brian McDermott
from the
won all of the things.
Local
Danny Ward, he's
up and coming. And who was 4th?
Andrew Henderson, who we like. We don't dislike any of the other people.
No, we really like them.
But I'm just saying they were stretching for options. James Ford, because he's linked with every job. It's like who's that guy who used to be manager of MK Dons? He got linked with the Sheffield United job once, and his odds.
Ainsworth? No,
I can't remember. Someone will remember. Probably on the podcast now. He was nowhere near the top of the betting for the Sheffield United job. Overnight was like he's been linked with the job. Odds shot down, and the source for that, who linked him with the job, was himself. Didn't happen. Not James Ford, Craig Lingard, 6th on the list. I say, doing a very good job at bat.
Doing a great job.
Probably wouldn't have been on the list of if I'd have named 6 coaches. Probably wouldn't have been on the list, and that's no disrespect.
100 to 1 outside.
Because he's doing a very good job. But some people voted for him.
Oh well.
I should have Craig himself, maybe. 2.84%. Just ask him how many people voted. Those polls are always playing. It's the TV awards this week, so good luck to Rob Burrow.
Yes,
and,
if you haven't
all the
voted
people
yet,
at the BBC.
you've got till Thursday.
So,
Stick your vote in. It takes a couple of minutes to go through. You don't even need to vote for any other category if you don't want to.
And if it doesn't win, it doesn't matter.
I couldn't vote for the soaps category because I never watched one.
Well, you put Emdale, wouldn't you? Because Yorkshire. I'm biased.
Yorkshire.
Is Brookside still on? Family
Is it
affairs.
still Emmerdale Farm?
Emmerdale Farm. There's still sheep on there. Hey, Mr. Wilkes. Martin Fire was on it once.
I think there was a rugby game on here. Is Annie still alright?
I think she's dead now. I'm afraid to say.
You could have broken that to me a little bit more gently.
The bloke behind the bar used to play rugby league. But also the bloke who ran the Rose Return who used to play for Wakefield apparently.
Well, I think there used to be a Salford. Was there a Salford?
Possibly.
Behind the Rovers Return.
There you go. Where's the link up there? They could have had a Coronation Street kit for Magic Weekend. Hilda Ogden's Muriel and the whatever they were. What were they? Pigeons? Doves?
Ducks.
Ducks. Flying ducks. Well, that's enough of them. On that bombshell. We'll be back next Monday to talk some more Rugby League. Thank you very much for all your interaction on social media. Please like, share and subscribe. Unless you don't like this programme, give it if you don't like it, actually, do the downvote, the thumbs down, because it counts as interaction. So some people get upset by them, but it actually works with YouTube's algorithm, so that's good. Do that. Do subscribe, because we're nearly at 2,000 subscribers, which will be good. I'm going to give it a thumbs down myself. So do share the video and all those things that you're supposed to do on social media. I'll leave you with Ken Davies' smiling face as we wish you adieu, good night, and congratulations to the Catalan Dragons. Magazine's still out. Next one coming soon. I think that's it.